What was found inside the cargo space of this truck shocked the world in more ways than one. Its ordinary unknowing transport driver had no idea what he was actually moving from point A to point B. But when a minor road accident caused the truck to flip and spill its guts, there was no turning back. Truck driver discovers strange cargo after accident and turns pale. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to Dailydose for more true stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. The accident that changed Luke's life happened on a quiet Wednesday evening. Luke had been behind the wheel of his 18-wheeler for nearly 5 hours, cruising along a remote stretch of Highway 251. This side road rarely had any traffic at this time of day, which gave him a sense of peace. But that peace was quickly shattered. Without warning, a deer darted across the asphalt in front of his headlights. Luke slammed the brakes, but instinctively jerked the wheel hard to the left in a desperate attempt to avoid the animal. The deer escaped unharmed, but Luke wasn't as lucky. His massive vehicle veered off the road, the tires catching on the gravel shoulder before the entire rig tilted and crashed onto its side with a thunderous boom. The force of the impact knocked the wind out of Luke's lungs. Dazed, sore, and shaken, he crawled from the crumpled cab. As he stumbled out onto the pavement, he was greeted by a surreal sight. The trailer had burst open, and its mysterious contents were strewn across the road and into the nearby trees. Blue and white spherical objects covered the highway like bizarre beach balls spilled from a carnival truck. Some were the size of grapefruits, others as large as soccer balls. Luke blinked in confusion and walked among them, muttering, "What the hell is all this?" A strange job from the start. The more Luke stared at the odd cargo, the more uneasy he felt. Earlier that day, he had picked up the shipment from a private facility outside the city. Normally, Luke oversaw the entire loading process, personally verifying the contents and making sure the paperwork was in order. But this job was different. When he arrived, several workers were already waiting. They didn't allow him near the truck during loading and simply handed him a clipboard with documents to sign. When Luke questioned them, they brushed him off. "Nothing to worry about, it's just standard freight." At the time, he had appreciated the break. Now, standing amid a sea of these strange, wrapped spheres, Luke realized something was very wrong. He crouched down beside one of the objects and tapped it. It was firm but not rigid, wrapped in layers of some kind of synthetic material. Curious, he began peeling it apart, only to freeze when headlights suddenly appeared in the distance. The black SUVs arrive. A sleek black SUV approached at high speed, tires screeching as it came to a halt beside the wreck. From it emerged a man in a black suit with mirrored sunglasses and a cold stare. Luke backed away instinctively. Within minutes, more SUVs arrived. At least 10 identical vehicles formed a perimeter around the scene. Dozens of suited men disembarked silently, moving with precision. One flashed a badge and claimed they were federal agents. "Please move away from the truck, sir, for your own safety." Confused and intimidated, Luke complied. When he asked what was going on, no one answered. He watched helplessly as they cordoned off the area with yellow tape and began collecting the blue and white objects with urgency. Luke was ordered to leave and asked if he had someone who could pick him up. Still dazed, he called his friend Stephen. While waiting, Luke noticed something no one else did. One of the blue and white balls had rolled far down a ditch, away from the watchful eyes of the suited men. Without thinking, he quietly retrieved it and tucked it under his jacket. The secret at home. Once Stephen arrived, Luke climbed into the passenger seat, his eyes darting around nervously. "Drive," he whispered. Stephen was confused, but obeyed. As they sped off, Luke revealed the hidden object. At Stephen's house, the two men placed the mysterious ball on the kitchen counter. "What if it's dangerous?" Stephen asked. "That's what I want to find out," Luke replied. With a sharp kitchen knife, he began slicing through the outer layers. The ball was intricately wrapped, layer upon layer, like an onion, each one made of a different material. Plastic, rubber, metallic foil. Whatever was inside had been protected with obsessive care. After nearly 10 minutes, the contents were finally exposed. Luke stepped back, stunned. Inside were several sealed syringes and a bag of pills, brightly colored and marked with scientific codes. "What is this?" Stephen gasped. "Were you transporting drugs?" Luke shook his head in disbelief. "I didn't know. I swear." No one to trust. Stephen reached for his phone to call the police, but Luke stopped him. "What if those guys weren't real cops? What if they control the police? We don't know who we're dealing with." They needed more answers, and fast. Luke retrieved the transport papers from his coat. "The delivery address is listed here. If we go there, maybe we can figure out what's really going on." Despite his friend's hesitation, the two men got back in the car and followed the address. An hour later, they arrived at a remote warehouse. To their shock, Luke's truck was already parked outside. Several of the suited men stood guard, while others carried more blue and white balls inside. From a distance, Luke took photos. But then he got too bold, creeping closer to get a better view. A sudden misstep caused a loud crack. He had stepped on a broken crate. Within seconds, he and Stephen were surrounded, grabbed, and dragged into the warehouse. The truth is revealed. Inside, the men remained silent, watching the pair closely. But then a man in a white lab coat entered. He was different, calm, professional. "I'm Dr. David Larson," he said, "and you've seen more than you were meant to." Luke confessed everything, about the crash, the hidden object, and their suspicions. The doctor nodded. "You're half right. These are indeed drugs, but not illegal ones. We're working on a classified government project, developing advanced treatments and vaccines for biological threats. The transport was meant to be discreet." "But why all the secrecy?" Stephen asked. "Because what we're testing here is experimental. If word got out, it could cause panic. These compounds are still unapproved, unregulated, and potentially world-changing." He gestured toward a nearby monitor showing chemical diagrams and testing procedures. "You weren't supposed to see this, but now that you have, I'll make sure you leave safely. You were just in the wrong place at the wrong time." The suited men didn't look convinced, but Dr. Larson's authority kept them at bay. Luke and Stephen were blindfolded and escorted away from the facility. They were dropped off miles from the warehouse and told never to speak of what they saw. Weeks later, Luke's trucking license was quietly suspended without explanation. Stephen's car was found vandalized, but nothing was taken. They both knew it was a warning. To this day, neither man talks about what they saw, at least, not publicly. But sometimes, when Luke stares out his window at night, he wonders how close the world came to discovering something far bigger than anyone was ready for.